You have probably already heard about the word blockchain, since it is a frequently used term in today's society. From cryptocurrency to NFTs, everything seems to run or use a blockchain. But what actually is a blockchain? Well, today I want to tell you about the basics behind a blockchain, why it is so popular, and what the most famous use cases are of the blockchain. Let's start with the basics of the blockchain. The first thing you have to know is there is no single blockchain. So, most of you have heard about the blockchain, like there is only one single blockchain in the world. That's not true. There are a lot of blockchains. There is, for example, the Bitcoin blockchain, which is basically the most famous blockchain there is because Bitcoin is running on this blockchain. Another popular blockchain is the Ethereum blockchain. And those two blockchains are not connected to each other. They are separate programs or applications. Then the next thing you have to know is that a blockchain is basically what the word blockchain says. So a blockchain is basically just a chain of blocks that are linked together. So yeah, but now you're probably wondering, okay, that's cool and all, but what are blocks? So blocks are basically containers for data, and they contain data such as block hashes, timestamps, or transaction data. The block hash is the most important part of the block data because the block hash is the hash of the previous block. So in order to link those blocks together, there needs to be a link, and this link is the block hash of the previous block. So there's one block and it has the hash of the previous block, so those two blocks are linked together. And then each block has its own timestamp, so you know when this block was created, and it has its own data, which is mostly transaction data, for example in the Bitcoin blockchain. And this transaction data just says you bought 5 Bitcoin for, I don't know, $100,000, and another one sold 5 Bitcoins, stuff like that. And just to visualize how a blockchain looks like, it looks like this. Not really, because actually it's a program, so it doesn't really look like anything, but you can visualize a blockchain just like that down below. So the green block is the Genesis block. And the Genesis block is important because it doesn't contain a block hash, or at least not one of the previous block, because there is no previous block. The Genesis block is the first block in the blockchain. And every block after this Genesis block contains the block hash of the previous block. So the black block next to the green block is the second block, and it contains the hash of the Genesis block. Okay, now you can see there is a chain of black blocks and there are some purple blocks. Well, the purple blocks, they are forks. So a blockchain can be forked, but most of the forks just disappear at some point because they don't get maintained, or because not a lot of people use the fork. So there is the main blockchain, and sometimes the blockchain is forked because of some event, and if there are enough users using this fork, then the fork becomes the main blockchain. But every time there is only one fork that survives, because all the other forks disappear, because I think most blockchains use this 50% rule, so more than 50% of the users have to use one fork, and this fork gets maintained further along. So after you know the basics of the blockchain, we can now continue on with why is the blockchain so popular. So the first part is it's distributed. So in contrast to regular monetary funds or regular money, which is controlled by a bank or a state, a blockchain money or a cryptocurrency isn't. And the first real use case of a blockchain was the Bitcoin blockchain, so a financial alternative to regular money. And the biggest selling point was basically that it was distributed. So there is not one entity behind this currency, but a lot of, like millions of entities behind one currency. And in that way, not one entity can control this currency, but a lot of people have to control. And so it's also more secure. So high security is another selling point of why blockchains are so popular. Because of how blockchains work with the linking of the blocks and forking, and only this fork gets approved which more people use and stuff like that, it adds a high security. And because it's distributed and mostly anonymous, you can be free in the blockchain. So there you mostly don't have to show an ID, which is part of the reason why many underground operations also use the blockchain. And well, the last, and I think one of the main reasons people started using Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies is the mining. So in cryptocurrencies you can mine the currency, which is basically just you rent your PC or your capacities of your server or something to the blockchain, which uses your power or your computing power to prove that the blockchain is valid. So you have probably heard about proof of work or proof of stake, which are two concepts used in cryptocurrency or blockchains to validate the blockchain and its individual blocks. I'm not going deeper into proof of work and proof of stake because it takes a lot of time explaining, and I probably make another video about it. But just know, when you mine, you rent out your PC or your computing capabilities to the blockchain so that it can run its proof of work or its proof of stake concepts on your PC. And I think those are the three biggest selling points for blockchains. So now, after you know why the blockchain or blockchains in general are so popular, we go on to its most famous use cases. So probably the absolute top of the famous use cases are cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Dogecoin, and all the other cryptocurrencies that are out there are using a blockchain in behind and running on this blockchain. And yeah, that's basically the most famous use case of blockchains. Another famous use case that has come to greater attention in the last years was NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens. Basically just everything you can put into a digital art and sell. So yeah. Then another thing that's getting more popular over time are dApps or distributed apps, which are running on mostly the Ethereum blockchain. And those are basically just simple programs, mostly games, that are running on a blockchain. Some of them you can even use to earn money. Those are called play-to-earn games. And two other things are the financial sector in general. So after the hype of the cryptocurrency, many banks and financial institutions started adopting or getting more into blockchains because simply it is distributed and more secure than oftentimes their system at the moment. And another point is healthcare, which also is starting to use the blockchain because it eliminates a middleman, and patients can store their personal healthcare information more securely. Yeah, so that's basically what I want to tell you about the blockchain in today's video. Also, after hearing all of this, there are also downsides to a blockchain. There is not everything fun and games with the blockchain, but I'm going to get into this in more depth in my video I'm gonna make on proof of work and proof of stake. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, consider liking the video. Stay tuned for my video on proof of work and proof of stake. and see you in the next video. Bye!